name's Nick Parma, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to wire up a bilge pump so that it not only works on a manual switch, but that it also works on a float switch. And they work independently, so you have a manual turn on and an automatic float switch. Before we start, I would like to include this image of a diagram I made that includes all of the wiring procedures, so feel free to come back to this point anytime in the video if you are confused. In order to complete this project, you are going to need a 12-volt battery, a switch, a bilge pump, a float switch, a fuse box, an inline fuse, and fuses to match each. And you're also going to want black and red wire of anywhere between 8 and 12 gauge. The switch I use is a 3-prong rocker switch, which means it only has on or off, and I think that these are the most simple switches to install. So the first step, what you're going to do is you're going to look on your switch, and it's going to give you where each thing goes. So power, load, and ground. Ground is the easiest. The ground is just a black wire that if you follow it, it runs all the way and just plugs into the negative of the battery. Now this could also go to a ground terminal or to a ground on your fuse box. Now my fuse box does not have any grounds, so that's why mine runs straight back to the battery. The middle switch for load is also very easy. This just plugs into the positive wire coming from your bilge pump. So we follow the middle wire, it just goes straight into the bilge pump. Now this splice is not standard, we'll be doing that later. And to connect everything to your switch, you're just going to use pin adapters like this and just plug them in after soldering the wire in and then shrink wrapping it. You're going to want to use marine grade stuff if you're putting this on a boat because it's going to be exposed to a lot of salt water. The third wire is called the power wire, and this is where things get the most complicated. So if we follow the last wire coming out of the switch, it runs underneath the table and comes out right here into our fuse box. Now this is an Easy ID fuse box. I forgot who it's made by, but basically they will light up if the fuse is bad. So this does not have any negative terminals. All it has is positive. So you're going to use another pin, right, a pin adapter, and just plug in whatever load you want. So our load is going to be this pump right here. You're going to plug it into your fuse, and we're going to put a 5-amp fuse on here. Now if you have a different bilge pump, you just look on the packaging and it will tell you what fuse to use. So mine has a 5-amp fuse, so I put a 5-amp fuse right here. After wiring up the fuse right here, once you have all this connected, you're also going to be using marine grade shrink wrap and soldering all of these connectors because you really do not want your bilge pump to fail. You're going to run a power wire from your fuse box all the way around out over here, and it is going to plug into the positive terminal of your battery. I forgot to mention it before, but these fuses are called ATM Fuses. The lettering just means the different size and type of fuse, and these just pop directly into the fuse box with a little bit of pressure. The bilge pump, you're going to take the bilge pump wire coming out of the bilge pump, right here, the black wire coming out. If we follow it, it goes straight onto the battery, and everything that goes onto the battery is just ring connectors. So right now, if you followed correctly, what you should have is a manual switch that when you switch it on and off, turns on the bilge pump, and that's it. Next up, we are going to be installing the float switch, and how you install the float switch is also very easy. What you do is you create a 3-way intersection right here, and you just cut in between the positive wire that leads to the switch off the bilge pump, and you add an extra wire coming here to your float switch, and then an extra wire coming out here that goes to the fuse. Now this is called an inline fuse. It is also an Easy ID, so it has a light on here, and this plugs into the positive. Another thing with this is you're going to have to label that this is positive in case you forget, because these are black wires and normally it's red that goes positive. Inside these inline fuses is going to be an ATC fuse, and I'm going to be using 7.5 amps. You can really use a 5 amp, but my local auto store was sold out, so that's why I have a 7.5 in right now. Wiring all correctly, you should have one manual switch that turns on the pump and one float switch that both work independently from each other. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I will answer as many as I can. Thank you all for watching, and if you'd like to see any more tutorials, just leave them in the comments below. Thank you.